Please join me in a prayer and our pledge. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have the roll call, please.
Mr. Powell.
Here.
Mr. Gertz. Mr. Lynn.
Here.
Mr. Albrecht.
Here.
Mr. Lindemann.
Here.
Mr. Fischescher is not here. Mrs. Etichico here.
Unless there's any objection, the absence of Mr. Fischescher is excused. He had a knee operation. I guess it's been about a week now, 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. But that'll take its toll on us old guys.
No, that should. It's like a plumber going out with a wrench.
There was no minutes that got out for tonight's meeting. Audience participation, anyone from the audience would like to step up and address council, please do. State your name and address.
You want me to use the cheap one?
No. Pat Ormond, 2720 Maple Tree Court. Happy election night, first of all.
Thank you.
Best wishes to everybody running, and thank you for your service if you're not. Probably a more peaceful election night for you guys. Enjoy. Just want to make a quick mention. I know you've switched this to a legislative meeting tonight instead of the committee reports, but just a quick blurb on our recycling efforts. Dave Powell was wonderful enough to put out a survey on his site, also shared with the Reading Community Forum site. And we also had a citizen, Dean Ramsey, who put out a survey, Facebook survey of his own. And just real quickly, I just want to share where we're at so far on that. And I know you're probably not voting tonight on it, so we got a couple more weeks to even collect data and talk more about it. But as of tonight, there's 3 options for the recycling. You had option 1, which is the weekly garbage and weekly recycling pickup. You had option 2, which is the garbage pickup and the every other week recycling option. And then 3 is basically what we have now, the garbage collection and subscription services. But I can't say I'm incredibly impressed at how Reading residents have responded so far to the survey. Again, a small count, small survey number, but taking option number 1 with the weekly recycling on pretty much all 3 surveys, the forum, Dave's site, and Dean Ramsey, we have 74% in favor of picking up recycling weekly. With the $4 charge. Putting option 1 and 2 together, we're at over 80% on all 3 sites, which means Reading residents, at least with this small sample size, seem willing to pay for the recycling along with the garbage. So very, very happy to hear that. And for anybody that's watching this tonight, citizens that haven't gotten involved yet, please look at Dave Powell's site or the forum site or Dean Ramsey's Facebook site on the forum. Please put your vote in. It's been a very civil and pleasant discussion on the site, and I certainly encourage all the council members to get on there and make comments as you see fit too. It's been wonderful. Just a couple quick notes that I do want to make sure that everybody understands and the citizens understand. Spent a lot of time with Dean Ferrier from Rumpke, and Patrick was nice enough to give me a copy of the bid prospectus there. But if we do go with that choice number 1 to pick up Recycling Weekly, everybody needs to know that Reading is going to receive, at least automatically from Rumpke, a small red recycling tote. That's what came with that bid. But they will provide all the citizens with a phone number to call and place an order for the 65-gallon recycling tote with lid on wheels at no extra charge. But Rumpke does want people to make that call so that they know they're sending out that piece of equipment to the people who will, you know, genuinely and truly use it. So I did want to just make sure people know that if you're watching tonight. I also spent a lot of time just talking to Dean Ferrier. I know from the forum, a lot of the citizens have some very legitimate complaints about Rumpke service in this city, both garbage and recycling. And I'm kind of making it my personal citizen mission to see that Reading gets some better service, at least as much as a citizen can do. Staying in touch with representatives at Rumpke and Dean Ferrier himself. So, you know, hopefully that helps a little to keep the pressure on them. So again, I said I would make that brief, and you know, I would guess we're not voting tonight, but citizens, please, you know, get involved in this discussion for the next couple of weeks, so that your representatives know where you stand, and that you have all the information we want to know from you.
Mr. Gertz.
Yep, Pam, I thank you and Tracy for all you do. I missed you at the football game the other night. I guess you guys.
We thought it was Friday night, but we had plans for Saturday
Oh, no,
night.
fine. You were there every other
Yeah,
time I was there.
we missed it.
You did a great job this year. But anyway, I don't know if you or Don want to, you know, expound a little more on the possible grant that we have out there too, if we decide to go with this. I think it was in the 70,000 mark,
So
75,000.
again, two separate issues. We do have a grant through Hamilton County up to $70,000. That won't really have anything to do with the recycling pickup through Rumpke. That's more park infrastructure, education, you know, stadium, Hayfie Fieldhouse, things like that. That's that grant. I am still looking into, and assuming the vote goes, you know, that the city becomes full recycling, there is another partnership, recycling partnership of America, I believe is what it's called. And I've got to fully talk to Gage more about that, but that is money that could actually help Reading buy the recycling carts themselves, so they're not part of the rental agreement with Rumpke. However, that contract is probably going to be signed and delivered before that happens, so I have to look at how that money's, you know, maybe they send money and it goes into the account to help offset the recycling or something, but it can't even look into it really until it's one of those things they say, you know, we got to read it before we pass it, but we got to be a recycling city before they'll even talk to you.
Okay.
Also, I don't know if Don wanted to outline the bid prices. You're up on them more than I am, I know. But I think our garbage collection went up somewhat, which we expected in the 5-year contract, but the actual recycling that added with the garbage pickup was still less than a lot of the surrounding communities.
So actually, yeah, our garbage is $11.75 beginning January. The every week recycling pickup would be $4 even, and trust me, Rumpke busted their butt to get that for us as a year one price. So $15.75 would be the price. In comparison, Deer Park's paying $18.83 right now for both services.
How much?
$18.83 for both services. I'm not sure what Laughlin pays. I was going to look into them, but it's a, you know, I still think we're getting good.
What is
good value
garbage
for our money.
now?
Garbage is $10.82.
Currently?
It went up less than $1.
Okay.
I think it's 1086.
Or 1086.
Yeah,
Sorry.
1086,
86.
and recycling is 445.
Right. So recycling for people,
Subscribers.
for
For
people,
subscribers.
for subscribers. So the recycling's actually
Get
going
that
to go
right.
down for current subscribers. The garbage is going to go up a little bit.
Well, it incrementally goes up each year under the 5-year contract
Yeah.
also.
And there's a couple option years too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that probably to be expected with labor costs and fuel costs and, you know, a little bit of instability in our markets and whatnot right now, but
The other question
Don,
I
did you
have,
want to add anything? This has been a kind of a
I
apple
have a
of
few
your eye.
things to say, but I thought we'd do that when,
Okay.
the ordinance came up, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'll save my comment for then too, thank you. Any other audience participation? Then we will go on with our agenda. I have no communications, is that true?
I have not received any.
Okay. No guest speakers and no executive session. I will throw in here any other business that needs to come up. Anybody have anything for that? I'm going to go ahead and go to legislative session. There is no ordinances. We have, resolutions. We have 3 ordinances. So if you would go ahead and read the second reading for the 2 weeks ago ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to purchase and install a salt storage building and associated concrete and block necessary for the building at an amount not to exceed $50,000 and declaring an emergency.
I'll make a motion that we suspend the required third reading.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Powell, seconded by Ms. Edichico to suspend the rule that we would require a third reading. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Albright?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
yes,
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
Motion passed.
motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lindeman, seconded by Mr. Powell, to adopt the ordinance for the purchase and building of the salt storage bin building. Roll call.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Albright?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes,
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted, and that ordinance number,
I actually don't know. Do you remember from
2030, I don't know.
Mr. Albrecht, you want to make any comments about the fact that we're not going to be able to store salt or something?
Yeah, I did have some comments here. While the proposed structure is not what I had envisioned a while back, which was basically a salt dome, I'm certainly in favor of this. It does not have the capacity that is recommended, which is 2.5 times the average yearly use, which is in Reading is 1,100 to 1,200 tons a year, which would mean it should be 2,800 to 3,200. However, again, it will, number one, offer some protection for the salt that we have. Number two, will increase the storage capacity. And what's interesting about this also is that it is movable. The structure that's planned is movable, and there's been talk over the years about going somewhere else or someone else taking over that property, and we'd have to have it somewhere else. But I'm certainly happy that this is happening. I'm certainly all for it, and like I say, I think it will, again, increase our ability to take the salt that we have ordered, and as we mentioned, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago, the salt company is not allowing us to store the salt that we have ordered, and what we have ordered would be much more than what we can store at our facility right now. So this will allow us to be able to store all that we have ordered, and again, we'll increase the amount that we have on hand. So again, I was happy when this came up, and it's one of those parting gifts that I think I might be getting as I leave. So I'm happy that we're able to do something.
This new building will also keep the salt that we're storing in better condition, right? So it won't clump up and...
Well, yeah, the 1,000 ton is what we've ordered. I would imagine they're going to keep what we have, the bin that we have now, they'll keep that. I think that holds about 600 ton. So that'd give us about 1,600, and that does offer some protection, and we can drape it with a cloth to help keep it from clouding or clotting.
So the
and,
new
when it
building
rains.
is better than the existing building for doing that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Okay, so it's good technology. Okay, and there is some confusion about the ordinance number. We will go ahead and mark it at 39 and just make that change in the minutes and on the sheet if we have to change it from that number.
Okay. Okay. An ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to execute a contract with Rumpke for waste and recycling services and declaring an emergency.
Discussion, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Lindeman, discussion.
Thank you. I sent out an email to council explaining why I was hoping that we would vote on this tonight. So that's still an option. But each person generates approximately 1,700 pounds of waste per year. 9/10 of all solid waste in the United States does not get recycled. 75% of our waste could be recycled. Cardboard can be recycled up to 7 times. Glass and aluminum can be recycled indefinitely. The United States uses 65 billion aluminum cans a year. You can make 20 new cans from recycled material using the same amount of energy to make 1 new can. A recycled aluminum can is usually repurposed within 60 days. You throw it away, goes through the system, remanufactured. 60 days later, you're drinking your Coke or Coors Light, whatever your preference. Most of the 4 million tons of junk mail Americans receive annually, most of it goes in the trash, not in the recycle bin. We have some of that with the literature that's been passed out recently. Make sure you put that in the recycle bin. 62 million newspapers are printed daily in America. 44 million go in the trash. I could recite, I'm not going to recite the number of trees that are saved and so on and so forth for all these things, but I think just the numbers themselves are impressive enough. Reading Pool is subsidized by our taxes. My family, other families, they don't use the pool. We all pay a little bit so others can pay an affordable price to use the swimming pool. Everybody doesn't use it, but it's good for the community. Reading schools are supported by taxes we all pay. We do this so our Reading children can have a great place to learn. Everybody doesn't use the Reading schools, but it's good for the community. Several years back, a survey about recycling was placed in the water bill. Over 70% of all those responded were in favor of curbside recycling. This is probably 6 years ago. Dave has some current numbers. I believe he's going to try to share tonight. Currently, we pay $10.86 for waste collection and $4.45 for curbside recycling, $15.31 totally. Deer Park, we mentioned, pays $18.86 now for the same thing. There's $3 difference there. I think we're getting a pretty good deal. I think that people that worked on these bids did a good job. A lot of help. Our waste collection fee will go up in January to $11.75. With both waste and curbside recycling weekly, we will pay $15.75. Do you remember when we signed this last contract 5 years ago? The contract was signed because we made, we saved 20% over what we were paying in the previous contract. So these numbers, I mean, I think they're great. I think we did a good job negotiating. It only costs $4 a month for weekly recycling. That's less than a cup of coffee a week. $4 a month. $1 a week. You can find that kind of change in Kroger's parking lot.
Or in your couch.
Reading,
Only the people that walk
recycling.
with a purpose.
recycling is good for Reading, good for the greater community, and good for our planet. If we don't recycle in a few years, we will be paying a lot more for waste collection as they have to transport it further away into landfills that are filled up. So if we do it today, we may save ourselves again in the future. I think it's time for Reading to move forward and join the 32 neighboring communities that curbside recycle. Something that has not been mentioned is the fact that there has been 900, close to 900 families that voluntarily have curbside recycled, and they've paid the price. If we don't have curbside recycling for everybody in the city, they're going to get a reward of paying $4.75 a month instead of $4. So they've been doing the right thing. They bit the bullet. I think it's time that we should have curbside recycling for the whole community.
Mr. Powell, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to go over a few of the numbers. I did put it up on my councilman Facebook page and Facebook group, and then also shared it to the Facebook community forum. They were up for around 18 hours, and these are the results as of 6 p.m. this evening. So on my councilman Facebook group, we had a total number of votes of 37, and it broke down as follows. For option 1, which is waste collection with weekly curbside recycling, that had 76%. Option 2 is waste collection with bi-weekly curbside recycling. That was 8%. And option 3, which is what we currently have, waste collection with subscription-based curbside recycling, that was 16%. On the community forum, that received a total of 87 votes, with option 1 coming in at 75%. Option 2 was 7%. Option 3 was 18%. And then Dean Ramsey was kind enough to create a poll on the community forum as well. Ironically, as of 6 p.m., it had exactly 100 votes, so it was pretty easy to figure out my percentages this time. 75% were for option 1, option 2 was 6%, and option 3 was 19%. From my perspective, one of the biggest issues we need to consider, thinking about the cost now, is short term. Let's think long term. There's a finite amount of space available at the Colerain Township facility. Once that's gone, our garbage would likely have to be trucked to Georgetown or beyond. Those trucking fees would become astronomical as far as that. So think about 25 and 30 years from now. What are we leaving for the future residents of Reading as far as their waste collection? What are we setting them up for? If we can do this and stretch the Colerain Township facility out, the number of space and years that we have left up there, if we can do this to stretch some of that out, long term, everybody is going to wind up benefiting. Short term, there may be a little bit of pain, some added cost possibly, but long term, I think it's a smart investment. That's where I'm at. I hear a lot of that, 900 people sign up for it now. And, I went and actually spent some time and spoke with a couple of my neighbors on Maple Drive, and they took that attitude that the subscription-based right now, if it's that, they're not going to do it. But if it's included, they would be interested in doing it. I think by that, we would see our participation really go up, is what I think would occur. You know, ultimately, we have to consider all things. A lot of people have said this is gonna be a financial burden. I realize that and recognize that, but, you know, there's a lot of interest to be considering.
Mr. Lynn?
I recycle. I pay the subscriber fee of $4.45 a month currently because I believe that recycling is important. But I also believe that you should have the choice. So I really like people, I'd want this to definitely be the first reading. I would like anybody from my ward to contact me, let me know what they're thinking, because I need to vote what my ward wants to do. Because I know you're throwing out what Deer Park has, but I don't know how many homes Deer Park has. I know that Reading has 3,436 homes that get garbage collection. Deer Park might be more homes, so that's why they're more expensive. So these are things you need to realize too. So I don't like to compare and contrast unless I know the numbers, right? Also, what I do know is that 893 homes currently pay or subscribe to the $4.45 a month. So that's about 25% of the homes. I mean, that's just a rough 25% of the homes at Reading currently subscribe to do that. So 75% aren't willing to pay that $4.45 at this time. So, I mean, these are things that I'm looking at as a councilman, trying to figure out how should I vote. Choice is very important to me. Me telling them that that's what they need to do on their monthly bill, I'm not very comfortable doing. So they can choose to subscribe and do the right thing, which is recycle, you know, long-term future results. That would be great. But choice, you do have a choice to subscribe and do it. Me to say, you're gonna pay it, when some people have a trouble paying $15.75 is what they're paying now is $10.86. It's already gonna go up almost $1 a month, $11.75 just to get garbage. So, future forward, I want this to be the first reading. I would like more numbers, because what we're looking at, we're saying 100 people voted. There are 3,436 homes that this affects, not 100 people. I don't know how many of those 100 people even own homes. It could be my daughter's voting. She doesn't own my home. She's not paying my bill. I don't know who's voting for that. I want voters who own a home to tell me what's going on.
Well, Tom,
Mr. Lindeman?
several years ago, we put this survey in every water bill in those 3,000.
You said 70%, but
Better than
how many of the
70%.
people replied?
660.
Which is a good number, correct?
It's not 3,000.
Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. President. The one thing I'd like to say is just from the bills and the projection of what I could see the bills do. You know, Rumpke has told us that they will have to move trash collection to a different facility. They will keep their recycling collection at the same facility that they're at now because it goes in and out easier. My concern is in the next 7 to 10 years, which will be the second or third contract that we're on, that it will more than double if we don't keep the company of trying to help them keep waste out of the landfill. You know, it's $11.75 this next round. I could see them doubling that for the next contract. So at the same time, I agree that things should be choices, but I think we're kind of backed up a little bit to what Rumpke's allowing to do, and they were the only one that bid for our contract this time around. You do have the option to go with somebody else. There's some horrible trucks that come down by my house that aren't Rumpke and don't even stop at the stop sign. You have a choice to pick a different provider if you want to search prices for that. So that's another choice you have. But then also a choice that we make as people up here, or people to help guide, for me, for the financials alone, my thing is the cost that will be passed to our citizens is going to be substantially higher if we continually choose not to help Rumpke out from keeping items out of the landfill. So when they go to bid for Reading next time, they're not going to be as nice, and they might have to send to their new places that they're purchasing for waste reduction further. Well, guess what? They're not going to pick the Amberley Village that's the high-profile team play or a 40% recycling, they're gonna pick the Reading to go out there since we're not even trying to help them with their recycling efforts to keep it down. So I'm just strictly talking about the financial end for the city and the residents of what it could be in the future. Now, I'm not saying something won't open up and maybe the old Gibson greeting card that the port bought over in Amberley won't be the next landfill. Well, there's no thing of it being there now, or the old Roman Haas for us wouldn't be the next landfill. There's still no communication on what that will definitely be. But right now, the places that they've purchased are Miami Whitewater, which is way out further than the Coleraine plant, to put our garbage, and therefore they will pass on the cost to places that aren't doing recycling to keep the waste reduction down. And we keep the company of 8 communities, 8 of them, that does not do that currently. So I agree fully that it should be a choice, but now us as a city, we're being made to make the best choices for our residents because we're gonna know the projection of what that will equate to in the future. So I definitely would love everyone to spread that word or give me a call about it, because I'm just fearful that we'll be sitting here in another 5 years after the next contract's up and it's gonna double or triple because we're not taking that item to help with this cost reduction for them as well. So that's my info, that what I have on the back end.
Ms. Chico.
And that's what I keep coming back to, is that Rumpke is running out of space, and that cost is going to end up on us if we don't do something. And I mean, this has been discussed for a while. I posted on my Facebook page and on the community page a couple months ago when I think we first were kind of talking about getting the bids. And a lot of the response, again, was positive. A lot of people surprised that we didn't already recycle and have a program in place. People that have moved here from other communities that did have something in place and were surprised that we didn't. I mean, I can go back and remember that garbage collection used to be included and used to be free, and that had to change. So the cost will only go up. Rumpke is running out of space, so we do have to do something, and I think now is the time. We can't keep kicking it down the road any longer.
Not if people choose to recycle and pay a subscriber fee.
Mr. Albrecht.
I think part of the reason that Deer Park may be higher than Reading is I think there's probably more houses in Reading than in Deer Park. Secondly, and I know this was discussed many, many years ago when I was safety service director, many of the houses in Reading are right next to each other. So obviously you can pick up a lot more houses a lot quicker, and that's why you have not only economy of scale, but you have economy of space. So I think that's some of the differences why we're better off than some other communities.
Mr. Lindeman.
One of the things I should mention is that Patrick sent out 4 bids, maybe 5, because he contacted me at the last minute and said somebody requested another bid. So this information that we have is what we're paying for waste and you know, our recycling, et cetera, is information that every one of those companies know exactly what Reading is paying. And so if there were 3 bids that decided not to bid at all, or 4 that decided not to bid at all, I think it's because they looked at the numbers and I'm sure they thought there's going to have to be an increase here, but we can't do this for the same amount of money. Most of the companies have to go through Rumpke Recycling because they don't have their own recycling plants. So they have to pay Rumpke to do the same thing, so
Right.
their cost is higher. Anyway, I put it out and I said that part of the big reason that I wanted this done tonight was to give Rumpke time to do all the work and distribution of the containers, et cetera. It's gonna take some time. I just don't want to push them into where there's a lot of complaints because Rumpke's not doing their job and we only gave them 20 days to get it done.
Mr. Gertz.
Well, it was commented that garbage collection was free. It's never free, but I think it was, when was it, Denny? 1985 we took bids?
It might have been before that.
Well, anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that we did an analysis many years ago about garbage collection, and we, regardless, it was unfortunate. We tried to do it by attrition. We had to close down our operation. We got rid of our garbage trucks. We didn't have to haul the maintenance on them. We didn't have to haul it to the landfill necessarily. We had to pay a fee to dispose of it. But on a 5-year contract at that time, we bid it and we saved $850,000. Now, that $850,000 was a savings to the general fund, but the residents still didn't pay for garbage pickup at that time, in that era. And for many years, they did not pay for garbage collection up into the 90s and maybe early 2000. Now, maybe I'm an optimistic, and I do believe that I'm optimistic. When we get people like Foreman's going out and getting people to do what they're doing, and now it's like catching on like wildfire in many places, I think. And we all need to follow that example. But my observation is that, Niveson's is coming down the road. We're going to, hopefully that's going to come to fruition. We've been working on that for a good 6, 8, 10 years. Bought the property, $400,000, and got about $2 or $3 million worth of grants. And we anticipate some high-paying jobs and greater revenue coming in from that source through earnings tax. The Port Authority and Nair Company is going to be in the next several years, hopefully within 2 years or so, and hopefully, Sabrina says I agree with her. I'd like to get rid of all those truck traffic going down Riesenberg Lane. But nevertheless, I think it was mentioned, maybe $500,000 of additional earnings tax. I'd like to be optimistic. We lost a lot of those jobs over the past years due to the companies closing down and moving to other locations. I would like to foresee that, maybe we take and say to the residents as this thing unfolds, maybe we'll pick up half the cost of the recycling. Maybe it's $4 to us, but $2 to them, if you think about it. So I'm not saying we're in a position to do that now. I don't see that as on the horizon as of the first of the year. But nevertheless, as we say, the city through the general fund did pick up all garbage collection and all disposal, 25, 30 years ago. And we've gone through some difficult times, and it was decided then to start charging for these services. So I would like to be optimistic that maybe at some time in the future we can be more aggressive in trying to pick up some of these costs. I'm trying to do it on my phone here real quickly, but if it's 3,400 people, I didn't think it were quite that many. I thought it was 3,120, but that's needless to say. But if it's 3,400, it's $4. I think I come up with $160,000 a year for the recycling, $170,000 a year for the recycling. You got it figured out for me already? Mine didn't print off right. $164,000. So now, $80,000 is a lot of money. I'm not saying it isn't, but if in the future here we can find a way to move some monies and stretch it out and work it around, and we pick up half the cost of the recycling, it's going to make it more palatable, I think, to the residents. And I would like to see us take the aggressive steps now to teach the people. And I have to give the Ormans and We Thrive and all these people that are working on doing these things for our community on a volunteer basis. That engenders other people to be more voluntary in their methods too, and maybe they'll be more active in saying, hey, I'm more than happy to pay my $4 if that's going to help, keep that campaign literature laying all over the streets, and they're going to pick it up and throw it in a recycling bin, So anyway, I have mixed emotion. I already had a constituent call me up and told me, he don't want this to happen, he don't want to pay. And I thought, well, it is tricky, and I hear what you're saying. I think it's something we got to do. But if you got 900 people who are already volunteering to do it, I think maybe we ought to look at trying to work out some kind of method to get this thing rolling, and then in the future figure out a way to make it more palatable for them as we go down the road on this thing.
Good, one more, this is the last one.
Okay. So if this isn't passed and those volunteer people have to pay $4.75, that's 75 cents additional for almost 1,000 people. That sounds like about $75,000. for them to do the right thing.
If there's 75%, you're gonna throw $5 or $4 on that choosing not to pay
Again,
anything
like just
right now.
Mr. Gertz said,
So you're
I think
taking
in the-
25 over 75.
In the future, you know, Mel has a real good report as far as income this year, so in the future, we could subsidize that just the same thing that we do with the pool. And $52 million school. You're talking $1. Anyway.
$12 a year.
And I think too, you gotta remember, what Pat and Tracy are talking about is, I think we put our foot forward and said we're gonna do something, then maybe these other, organizations out there that have a lot of dough will start to think about, hey, Reading's doing something, maybe we ought to go try to help them with some grants, and we can be more aggressive about grants and things like that. I don't know where they are, I'm not that good at that, frankly. But I think the greater possibility of getting grants is if we're taking the initiative to do something.
That's the way it works. You set up the program so that if we have money to pay half the street paving, the state comes in and matches it.
That's correct, we did set
This,
that up.
The 2-year grant that we got from Brad, is it?
Yep.
Yeah, Brad.
It's
From
because of
Hampton
what we
Resource.
were in the process of doing, and people like the Ormans were doing, that's the reason why we got that grant.
Yeah,
Well, you make a good point, I don't wanna, I think people ought to have a say in it too, and
I agree with
Maybe we'll
that,
do
but I
another
just think
survey.
that, I just think in 6 years, we've talked about it enough here.
yeah.
That I think that if people have had a chance to say,
Well, I just don't know who's saying it. I mean, you say 660 people replied. I already know 893 homes paid for it. So that 660 number doesn't surprise me. And only out of that 660, though, only 70% said. So, I mean, we're playing around with all these numbers that you're throwing out, but what we're
Again,
looking
that
at is
survey was 6 years ago.
25%'s willing to pay $445 right now. That's what I know as a councilman on here, that 25% of Reading is willing to pay a fee for that. 75% saying no. And it's pretty easy to do. All you have to do is call Patrick, and he throws it out. He throws out get you to get a can out there. It's an easy process to start doing. Only 25% of Reading has chosen to do that.
I'm gonna go to just 2 more, that's all.
I will speak from my wife and I's experience. We do not recycle curbside, and it's not because of the cost. It's the administration of it and what it took to get that and the burden that I've heard that it creates here. That is why we chose not to do it.
Patrick took that burden on. I called and I got it. I mean, so that's something the administration took on. Now, are they going to continue to take that on? I don't know. But that's
they're
what they're
not.
doing right now.
they're saying they won't.
They're saying they
And
won't.
that's the other problem, even for us, like the Build a House in 2018 in the Valley, it's the same thing. Like, I'm glad that you had a good experience, but number one, finding that information on the website. Number two, for it to be transparent. And number three, for the bill to be correct. You should see the time that it's been taking for them to mesh up the bill and make sure it's right. It's been a horrible experience, and once again, for the boys, the men at the service department to clean out the receptacles that are the community ones, I'm trying to take those man hours and turn that back to Rumpke for this charge per week and per month to go, okay, now it's their thing, it's at the curbside. They're the ones that have to mitigate the, group of it. And I wish, Tom, I could give you what it's gonna be like in 5 years if we don't do this and they ship us out to another, facility for recycling and or for trash mainly. And they won't give us those numbers yet because, of course, I'm sure they're trying to do the analysis of it. So if I could provide that with you directly, I would.
Okay, I think the big thing I heard was Rumpke has a lot to do between now and the end of the year, that a vote tonight would be very helpful to making sure that 300 and some families in Reading get their bucket, get their recycling bins on time, and are ready to go if we get this passed tonight. We had another audience participation on this subject. Does council have any problem allowing that to occur?
No.
Please step up and go ahead and if it's on the recycling.
Pardon me. Justin Feldman, 1415 Market Street, Reading. I just wanted to relay to you all, before you make your decision, because this could happen here. I know it's happened in Cleveland. And two communities my daughters lived in. Moreland Hills, the latest. They have no charge for any of this. It's part of your tax bill. And I think the worst thing, though, is the problem it's created for the administrators, because they will only, if they get a can that's mixed at your curb, they have got rules, and I don't know what if it's rules or laws. I just know what she told me. She said if I put too much non-recyclables, if she has a pizza box that's got grease on it, and it comes back enough, they charge it to the city, and the city has to administer charging it to the person so that they don't get a lot of stuff through the recycle system that they can't recycle. And the other thing that I don't understand is going on, I don't understand why everything has to be assessments now. It's like everything new we've gotten for 10 or 15 years has been an assessment to our water bill, and it's becoming a situation where it's difficult for people to pay for their water, people on fixed incomes. So I just think sometimes if you're going to do things, sometimes it's better to put a levy up and see if people want it that way. And then the people really do choose. That's my two choices, two things. Do what you got to do. I understand and I agree with everything you're all saying, but those are things maybe to consider.
Okay. So we had a reading, and I think that's when we went into discussion. So do I hear any motions?
Well, I'd like to wait until Mr. Gertz gets back.
Yeah, we're gonna need him for a motion.
Right. Well, I would make a motion to suspend the rules for the second and third reading.
I'll second.
And I will make my announcement when they get back. When he gets back.
You want to read the third one, since we're not going to vote on that tonight, probably?
Yeah, we'll wait. If we're not gonna, it's just, Carla's a quick reader. She'll pound right through that.
Ordinance. Does anybody else smell fries? I smell French fries.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just hungry.
I think that's a COVID thing, I think. It's a
I gotta go home. Okay, sorry, guys.
lack of taste and everything smells like French fries.
Everything smells like French fries.
Is that true? Everything smells like French fries?
No, not at all.
Who knows? Because it's
Smell,
the
you
craziest
smell
symptoms.
nothing,
Test
you
it, I'll
taste
bet you
nothing,
15
so there's
Yeah,
no
somebody
point in
told me they
eating
could
when you
only
have
taste-
COVID.
Was it like salt or something?
No,
Yeah.
you taste nothing. There's no point.
My brother-in-law.
When I did have it, I basically was
Youngest
not
brother.
eating, and then my
Yeah, my
stomach would
brother
growl. I'm
said
like,
something,
oh,
there's like
gotta
a
eat.
flavored pudding test to see if you
Nursing
have it.
home now.
I have a motion made by Mr. Lindeman, seconded by Ms. Edichico, to suspend the rule that requires a second and third reading for the ordinance on the waste collection and recycling by Rumpke. Roll call?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
No.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
This will be just a first reading, and we will have a reading 2 weeks from now at least. Okay, and our third ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor and the safety service director to enter into an agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police Ohio Labor Council Incorporated for a 3-year contract and declaring an emergency.
That'll be just the first reading then. Okay, and Any other comments before I gavel? And, well, I did want to discuss a possible, we will have a third Tuesday will be a council, reports from administration and council members. Does anyone want to entertain a council of the whole meeting, later in the month?
I thought that's why we changed all the rules. You didn't want to do that anymore.
No, the second Tuesday usually was a legislative and council of the whole, but
Just-
we were not really going to turn this next, Tuesday, 2 weeks from now, into reports and the council of whole.
The only
So we're
comment
going
I-
to be missing one.
Food for thought, we're gonna be probably council that, a lame duck council, so I don't know. We discuss a lot of things, maybe we can't get a lot of things done in a month, but just throwing that out.
That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah, that's why this was important to pass the one tonight, but, okay, so I'm gonna go with no council of the whole
Does Mr.
meeting.
Dirks want to make any comment on what Mel sent out?
Yeah, on.
Well, this was, well, first of all,
Leave it
I
for
thought it was
him.
ironic, I don't want to get into tonight, because I'm trying to get down and have a
Yeah.
beer here shortly, Election Day. But, I don't know it's appropriate to arbitrarily change the procedure just because it happens to be election night tonight. I mean, I wasn't going to give a report regardless, because I wanted to get out of here. But for the president just to change the procedures, I think it's a rules of council you would have to follow. And I think that we still have the third meeting, or anybody can call a special council meeting and for the fourth Tuesday, or the next meeting's the third Tuesday of the month. You could decide to have the meeting on the fourth Tuesday. I would prefer having a meeting every Tuesday night, frankly.
Well,
And that's what you voted
I've got my own thoughts on that, too.
You voted against.
yeah, I mean, obviously, other people have had thoughts differently than that, and that's why we're where we're at.
Right. So anyway, Mel's got a report. I always compare just for real quick in his notes, he said we're $725,000, 925 ahead of last year at this time, but I always want to compare myself, when I look at it, 21 to 19 a bit, and we're still doing well, though, compared to that. So I'm real happy with what's going on. I'm not sure where all the dollars are coming from. This is purely the earnings tax revenue, so we got to still look at the other sources of revenues that we have. And as Don pointed out, we have bifurcated a lot of these, and by splitting the real estate taxes into the special capital fund as well as real estate, having the ordinance to set up a separate fund for paving has been very important. So that created more funds, individual reporting, but it has made it much more effective when doing business. So I think it's a good report from Mel, and he can go into more detail on the third Tuesday, I think.
That'd be good. I do want to see if there's any action items that came out of putting off the vote tonight. Mr. Lynn, will you be trying to find out who's doing all this reporting, or are you expecting someone like Mr. Powell to go and find that out for you?
I mean, I would hope that, I'm currently Ward 3 councilman, so I hope that my ward contacts me if they live in my ward and they tell me how I vote. I'll vote the way Ward 3 wants me to vote. That's how I feel. On recycling.
How are you gonna achieve that?
Well, I make maybe I'll go around on a Thursday when they do the recycling, and I could see how many people in Ward 3 currently pay the subscriber fee. And if the majority of people in Ward 3 pay the subscriber fee, then I know that the majority of the people want to.
So
pay
is that
for
an action item you're going to do, or is it just a bunch of talk between now and 2 weeks from now?
But what I'm saying is I think this is something that you just don't vote 1 week, and I know we've been talking about it, but this is something that you gotta let the citizens respond. They need to come and tell us what they want us to vote. Because it's
What if
gonna
they
be,
don't?
it's gonna be
I don't think we oughta-
it's gonna be an extra $5 on their bill.
I don't think we ought to be chastising Mr. Lind, how he wants to go about it. He has every right to make his own decision.
Well, I'm just
I
looking for
appreciate
an
you
action
doing it.
item from his.
Give them a week to process, give them a week to email me, yell at me, whatever they want to do. They have a right to call me and let me know that I'm not doing it right or wrong. I'm going to give them 2 weeks to do that. So I'm asking everybody in my ward to call me, I'm your neighbor. I'm at Ward 3. Do it. Come to me. That's why I'm here. So if you're interested in telling me that I'm not doing it right, let me know. I'm representing you. The thing is, it's a good deal for me. I already pay the subscriber fee. I'm going to save money if I go vote it the other way. But I'm not here for me. I'm here for my ward. I'm not willing to say that $5 more a month from them is fair. That's not right. So give them 2 weeks to contact me, let me know how they want to vote. I'll do my job. I'll vote.
Meeting adjourned.